Hey guys, today we're going to be making a loaf of bread and cinnamon rolls. So my recipe usually gives me 2 loaves of bread. Sometimes I'll half it and we'll have a loaf of bread and then we'll have cinnamon rolls. And so we're going to have cinnamon rolls this evening for a snack, and I'm trying to get the bread done in time for lunch so we can have grilled cheeses. This is my first video to talk through cooking, so here we go. The first thing that I'm going to do, oh, and I have no fancy equipment, so try to set this up better. Here we go. We use fresh milled flour, so I have to measure out my wheat berries. And today we'll be using spelt and hard white wheat. And both of these I like to purchase from a small family farm in Idaho called Grand Teton Ancient Grains. And it's an organic farm and it's great. So that's what I'm gonna do first. I'm gonna measure out 880 grams of wheat. And I like to do about half. So there's about 450, and then I will measure out the rest with hard white. All right. Now we're gonna mill our flour. I have the Mock Mill 100, and I absolutely love this mill. So basically, you just turn it on, put it how fine you want, and then toss in your wheat berries. Now that my flour's milled, I'm going to go ahead and add in my wet ingredients. So I'm going to use 520 grams of water. And then I'm going to add in 62 grams of olive oil. And this is a really neat thing. I'll show you more about it later, but let's go ahead and do our 62 grams of olive oil. You can use butter, but I prefer the olive oil. And then we will toss in our honey. I like to sweeten my bread with honey. You can use sugar, but I feel like the honey makes a softer bread and just gives it that right flavor. We're going to use 94 grams of honey. There we go. Okay. My husband used my good honey the other day to make some kind of antibiotic that's currently fermenting inside my cabinet, so I had to use this today. Okay. And now I'm also going to add 2 eggs, which isn't necessary to make bread. But in order to make a softer bread with whole wheat, I feel like the eggs help. Some people will use like additives, like the sunflower or something, but I don't want to use any additives in my bread. So I just use eggs because it's natural. So after you've done that, all you're going to do is toss in your flour, and then you are literally just going to start kneading the dough to combine your wet ingredients. So I'm going to toss in the flour and move it over to the mixer. Everything's in our mixer now, and we're just going to mix it until everything's well incorporated. Then we're going to toss a towel over it and just let it sit and wait. It's important for whole wheat to kind of, they call it autolyze, but it's really just where it can soak in the moisture, and then we'll add in our yeast and our salt. Now we're going to measure out our salt and yeast and add it to it. So we are going to use 16 grams of yeast, and then we will measure out our salt, which you don't want to skip out on the salt because your bread will not taste great without it. So now we're just going to measure out the 19 grams of salt, and then we're going to add it into our mixture. Okay, I'm tossing in my salt and yeast, and then I'm literally going to turn on the mixer and let it knead for probably about 8 minutes. We may try to reach window pane, but with the spelt flour, I don't typically get a good window pane. All right, I like to always go back and knead it a little bit, but now I'm ready to toss it into my thing and let it rise. So this little thing I told you all was neat. You can either pour or you can spray, which I really like because I spray it down with olive oil to keep it from sticking while it's rising. And now I'm just going to kind of shape it into like a little ball. And then I'm going to toss it in here, cover it up, and we're going to let it double in size. We're going to punch down the dough real quick and cut it in half. Thank you. And we're going to separate it out and shape our loaf, and then separate out what we're going to use for cinnamon rolls. All right, 1/2 is in the bowl, which we're going to use to make cinnamon rolls. This half we're actually shaping into a little loaf. I'm going to put it in my USA Pullman pan. These are like the best bread pans to me. And so we're just going to put it in here. We're going to cover it up. We're going to let it rise for, I don't know, depends on how long it takes, usually about 30 minutes. And then we'll put it in the oven and bake it. So this is what it looks like right now. This is kind of a more lengthy process, not crazy long, but I'll probably speed up some of it just because nobody wants to watch you roll out a dozen cinnamon rolls. So let's get out the stuff, and you're going to roll it into basically a big square. Once you get the big square rolled out, you will cover it in, I have melted kind of butter, and then I have a brown sugar and cinnamon mixture. So when I do speed this up, you'll see that I will put the butter on first, and then I'll put the brown sugar cinnamon on, and then I'm going to roll it up, and I'll be cutting them out. And usually I get about a dozen of these. And then I'll put them in my buttered pan. So I'll show you that part, and then we'll let them rise some more. Okay, I got roughly like 10. This time I cut them a little thicker because I used a smaller pan than normal. But now we're just going to cover them, and we're going to let them rise about the next hour. All right, my bread's risen enough for me. I don't like super high loaves, so I'm about to toss it in the oven for 65 for about 35 minutes. All right, our bread is done, and now we're about to put our cinnamon rolls in the oven. Okay, now we're going to make some icing them, and they'll be done. These are the best cinnamon rolls ever. They're super good. They're moist, flavorful, so good.